One of the biggest benefits to Conestoga's line is the sheer breadth of offering they offer. It's great for designers, and a lot of homeowners love that flexibility, but it gets some people in trouble because there's so many options, it gets a bit overwhelming. And one of the areas that gets overwhelming is how to dress up a door the way you want it. So if you walked into Home Depot or Lowe's and you look at the Marlboro door on the wall, it comes as you see it. Conestoga is not like that. You can pick a door and you can dress up the outside edge. I'll hold up a door here to illustrate where I'm talking about. You can dress up the outside edge, which we call an edge profile, the framing bead. Okay, so this is the frame and this is the beads. They call it a framing bead. And then you have a panel. Now this one's showing a flat panel, but they can do panel raises, all sorts of different raises. I think they have 15 or so. There's like 22 outside edge profiles and 7 framing beads. So you can take the same door and you can build it up the way you want it. Now some doors, like a mitered door that has a very decorative frame and it comes the way you see it, maybe all you can change is the panel raise. But on a lot of doors, like the CRP10, kind of the workhorse mortise and tenon cope and stick door that Conestoga offers, you can dress those up any way you like and there's no price penalty. So you can make the door look as simple or ornate as you want. And sometimes that decision is driven by, are you going to put glazing on the door? Because if you are, you want a lot of nooks and crannies for that glaze to hang in. You might want to use a more complicated edge panel raised framing bead. So it really gives you some flexibility, but there are some limitations. We want to walk you through those now and some things to be aware of. I'm going to cover a bit of ground on this video. It might be a little bit long, but if you hang with me through it, you'll learn some things about how to dress your door up and not have some pitfalls that come about. So let's start, first of all, with edge profiles. There's 22, I believe, and the offering constantly changes. They're always adding some and taking some out of the published offering, but I think they have 22 published edge profiles. The critical point I want to make is they're all on the catalog. You can see the cross sections, so we're not going to get into each of them. The critical thing that separates them all is boreable versus non-boreable for hinges. So on this door, we have concealed cup holes. All right, these are 35 millimeter bore holes, traditional for the industry, standard. I believe they're 13 millimeters deep. And the tab dimension here on a full overlay is 2.5 millimeters. And if it was an inset or a frameless cabinet boring, it would be a 5 millimeter tab. That's a set pattern for that hole. When Conestoga presses the boring cup, the bit in, and it goes in 13 millimeters, the issue becomes if you have too much profile here, that cup bore is going to come through the face of the door on that edge. So I got a couple demonstrators here I want to show you. In my hand I have, this is the H2 edge profile, and a very similar one next to it is called the J2 edge profile. Again, you can look at these in more detail on the website. The one in my left hand, right as you're staring at it, is a boreable edge profile. The one in my right hand, this one's too deep. So when they bore that cup into that piece of framing to put your hinges in, it's going to come through the face. The way these are listed on the website and in Conestoga's catalog is the ones that are hinge boreable have a little asterisk next to them. If it doesn't have an asterisk, they can't bore it. And I want to say out of the 22 edge profiles shown on the website, a third, maybe a half are hinge boreable and the other half are not. So you have to be very, very careful. We have lots of customers that place quotes or orders for edge profiles they can't get hinges on. We can't provide the hinge boring, nor can we provide the hinges in those cases. So be aware of that asterisk. And then we move over into inset edge profiles. These are also shown on the website. I'll pull these over here. If you're doing flush inset, beaded inset, or partial inset, Conestoga has edge profiles for you. I'm going to demonstrate using this piece of framing here. Beaded inset would be if you had a front frame on your cabinet that has this delicate bead, and the door is going to sit inside the opening of the cabinet with that bead showing. Okay? When you're doing beaded inset, Conestoga uses a L686. We're going to pick that for you automatically unless you tell us otherwise. And if you can see this, it's got a little round over to match the round over on the beaded frame. And it's also back beveled slightly. It's got a 2-degree back bevel. And that is there so that when you have this door and it's very tight, 3/32 gap, and you open the door, you don't want this back corner to momentarily kiss that framing bead, or that front frame rather. So they back bevel it so you get no binding on your door. So the L686 is a match for beaded inset. The other inset option is just flush inset. So this would be where, using our little sample door, you don't have a bead. It's just a front frame and the door right up against it. Kind of a clean shaker farmhouse look. When we do that one, the edge profile they use is called the L253. It's very similar to the 686 I just demonstrated, but it's sharp edged. Again, because the frame on the cabinet is sharp edged. So when you put those two together, you get two very sharp corners coming together with your 3/32 gap. That L253, because it's inset, is also back beveled 2 degrees. So you don't have that collision factor, okay? So we're going to pick the L253 for you if you don't specify. You may want something different, but you got to let us know. If you say flush inset, we're going to specify L253. The last option is not a very common one, but we see customers get themselves in trouble. It's called partial inset, and that is where, you can see this as a rabbet, they have a few edge profiles where the door is sitting partly in and partly on the front frame. All right, so in that case, the rabbet on the back is, I think it's 3/8 by 3/8, and it's meant to be used with Conestoga's 1/4-inch overlay option. They do offer a 1/4-inch overlay. The trick is there's no hinge prep at all, so we can't do concealed cup boring on this. We can't supply hinges for this. You're on your own for hinges, but we can supply the cabinet and the door ready to go. And then what you'd have to find on some place like rocklear.com or some hardware place is a hinge that's meant to go into that gap and sit as a decorative hinge where you would see it on the frame of the door. This is very common back in the 50s, 60s, and it's people who do it as kind of a retro look. We still get requests for it. The biggest thing is just be aware we can't help you with hinge boring, okay? So that's called partial inset. Now, last point on the edge profiles is there are 3 or 4 premium edges that do add about $15 per door or drawer front. And that's these 3 here. They're all the same variation, it's just wider beads. You can see they have this delicate beading on the inside. This one's a bit heavier. They have 3 of these, okay, and they all add $15 per door. We have a lot of folks who ask for these beads on inset cabinetry, and what they're trying to do is, if this is representing your front frame and this is the door, they're trying to put the bead on the door instead of on the frame like I demonstrated earlier, okay? So that's where the bead is on the frame, and people are trying to put the bead on the door and then put it inside the frame like that. The problem is it's a lot less expensive to do actual beaded inset cabinetry where the bead is on the frame and keep the outside edge of the door with that L686. That's cheaper than adding $15 a door and putting that bead on every single door and drawer front. So we don't do a whole lot of these. These beaded profiles, we don't do a lot of them. If we do get customers who ask for them, we try to talk them out of it and encourage them to put the bead on the front frame itself. But they do offer it if you have to have it to match an old look from a previous kitchen, or you just happen to like that beading on the outside of the door, that's fine. We can work with you on that. Framing beads, so we're off of edge profiles. Now I want to talk about framing beads, so we're right here. Conestoga has 7 of them, and they are ranging from a simple square edge, which is like this one. So let's pretend this is your panel coming in. So we're talking about square on the inside edge, and they range all the way up to very ornate ones. You can see the Elite bead here, which has been around for a long time. They've got some new ones that got some decorative profiling in here. Again, the question you want to ask yourself is, how traditional or how contemporary do I want to be? And my design, do I want to use glazing? Because if I do, I want more ripples to catch more of that glazing. You're paying the same 10% upcharge basically for glazing, whether you have a lot of glaze catching or a little. You might as well get the most for your money and try to have a lot of heavy profiling to catch it. So you can dress those doors up any way you want with the framing beads. The panel raises, I'm not going to show you all of them, but I think there's 11, 12, 13, something like that, to keep adding. And they range from very ornate to very simple. They even have some that are like flat panels where the door is perfectly flat, but the profile for the panel raise is on the back of the door, but your viewing surface is flat like these shakers used to do it. And what's really cool is Conestoga actually sells these boxes off to my side. You can see we've got all the edge profiles and the framing beads and the panel raises. You can order these boxes for about the same cost as a couple of sample doors, and you can sit there and play in your own house and say, well, there's a slant raise with the F1223 bead. I don't like that, but maybe I want the Louis XIII raise. You can mix and match and play with all these until you get a design you like, and then order your kitchen based on that. I think these boxes are like $55 each. We can't take them back. They make them to order, so you have to keep it. But that is an option if you don't want to buy a bunch of sample doors to try to visualize. So hopefully that helps out. If you have questions, there are always questions on these framing beads and panel raises and so forth. Just give us a call, 888-211-6482. Our sales guys are happy to help. And again, we can always get you a sample door or a drawer front to show an edge profile or whatever you need. to visualize, because this is the tactile, I've got to see it before I buy it kind of thing. We don't expect you to buy a kitchen without actually seeing some of these options. So just give us a shout. We're happy to help. Thanks for watching.